Blogging Basics, part of the Content and Inbound series in the Digital Toolbox by Roundpeg. My name is Lorraine Ball, and I'm going to be your instructor today. My company, Roundpeg, has been managing digital marketing campaigns and blogging programs for more than a decade. And today I'm going to share with you some of my favorite blogging tips, because I think blogging is vital to small business. Well, actually, I think blogging is vital for every business. So why is blogging so important? Well, it really boils down to several things. The first is search. When I look for a product or service like the one that you provide, what do I find? Well, in most product categories, I'm going to find a lot of ads. I'm going to find a map to locate businesses near me, and then I'm going to find organic content. And this is where blogging comes in. You have to buy this space. You have to work at this, and you have to be nearby. But this you can control by creating lots of relevant, keyword-rich content. Because you see, there are a lot of factors that Google considers, but throughout the years, and like I said, we've been doing this for more than a decade, I will tell you that these three factors, recency, relevancy, and related links, have continued to be critical. And blogs hit all of these. You can't change your homepage often enough to keep it interesting to Google. But a new blog post on a specific keyword is recent and it is relevant. And it allows you to hit the variations. You can't use all of these phrases in one blog post or one page of your website. But the truth is that there are people who are going to search for cheap auto insurance or best auto insurance or auto insurance rates. So how do you hit all of those variations? You create a blog post entitled Cheap Auto Insurance, Best Auto Insurance, Indiana State Auto Insurance, and you write content around each and every one of those phrases. And now when someone searches any of those phrases, one of your blog posts is sure to rise to the top. The second reason that blogging is important, and this is no less important than search, and that is that blogs answer questions that customers have. And what we know is that customers have lots of questions and they look for those answers before they call you. In a recent study, it was discovered that 57% of all purchase decisions are made before a customer ever talks to a supplier. So before they pick up the telephone to call you, they already know if they're going to buy from you. So how do you get into that conversation before a customer is ready to call you? The answer is blogs. Now, what questions you answer depend on your audience, and this is true in every single part of your marketing. You need to divide your customers into groups and create content for each of those groups. Do not try to talk to everyone in one article because you won't be able to. Everyone is different. Think about the company, the bike shop. They've got different kinds of customers. They have the very occasional customer. They have the serious rider and the weekend cyclists who go out regularly, and maybe even use biking to get to and from work. But they're not racing to get there. That occasional cyclist might be interested in articles and newsletters about sales of the product. They're going to care about cost-effective alternatives because they aren't a serious rider. In contrast, the person who is the serious rider is going to be interested in the latest technologies, new racing regulations, and maybe even interested in joining a racing community. And finally, the regular cyclist, the folks that ride on a regular basis, but they're not out there racing the wind, may simply be interested in information about your company. They're in and out of your shop on a regular basis. So divide your market into smaller groups and then think about what do each of those groups want to know, what questions do they have? And write as if you were talking directly to them. Keep it simple. Do not let blogging become an overwhelming, burdensome task. How often do you have to blog? Well, that depends on the industry that you're in. We did a survey, and we've actually done this study every year for about 10 years, and we started asking about blogging back in 2014. And we asked how often people blogged. And what we've seen in general is that people are not blogging as often as they used to. But we still see a significant percentage of people that blog once a week or at least once a month. If you're in a B2B space and you are posting on social media like LinkedIn twice a week, you need to be blogging at least once a month to have some good content to link to and write about. If you're in a space where you're actually posting on social media, on LinkedIn every day and multiple times on Twitter, you're probably going to need to have at least one blog post a week to support your activities. I'm going to tell you that these people are making a huge mistake and missing huge opportunities, both in the area of connecting with their customers as search engines. But earlier I said keep it simple. So here are a couple of the basics. Every blog post should have kind of one key phrase that you're working on. Yes, you can talk about several related things in a blog post, but decide up front, what is this blog about? You need to be thinking in terms of 600 words minimum. Anything less than that, and Google thinks that essentially the blog post is thin content. You won't get the SEO value that you're looking for with a blog post with 400 words. Now, before you get all bent out of shape, let me put that into perspective for you. 600 words is just barely over 1 1/4 typed pages. When you were in school, you did that all the time. You got to have an engaging title. You got to catch people's attention with the headline. And I'm going to give you some tips and suggestions later in the program. But the headline, when you're done with everything else, the headline is where you need to spend your time, because if you don't catch a reader's attention with a great headline, you aren't going to get them to read the rest of the article. And finally, you need a good picture. You need something that you can use to share your article on social media. This is a sample blog layout, and you'll notice it's pretty simple. Title, great picture. You'll also notice that it's pretty long, and what we've done is we've got some subheads. This allows a reader to jump down and get to the section they're most interested in. It also gives Google additional information to index this page. And at the bottom, the ever important next step. You got all the way down here. Now what? Well, for this post, download our chili recipe guide. Content ideas are everywhere, and all you need to do is listen. Listen to your customers, listen to your employees, listen to your suppliers. Ask them about what they see in the industry, what's going on. Ask for funny stories that happened that day. You would be amazed at how many ideas you can generate. And write them down. We do this at work. We have an idea wall, and every time somebody says something that prompts oh, that would make a good blog post, we pop it up on a colored note, we put it on the board, and then when I'm stuck for an idea, I can stand in front of the board and go, oh yeah, I wanted to write about that. I can just free flow when it comes to writing a blog post, but a lot of my younger writers kind of start with the title and then they get stuck and they slide into that high school or college format of this is what I'm going to write about it, and then conclude. And it feels very unnatural. And so what I often suggest is that they take the title and then create an outline. Take a minute and just outline the 3 main points you want to make. Those points become your subheads, and then it's easier to fill in the information. Write about what you know and your customers don't. And in every industry, if you are a professional, you run across information that others don't have, and a blog gives you a great way to share it. But you have lots of options when it comes to blogging. I'm going to talk in a little bit more length about creating and writing your own blog posts, but you can curate content and you can cultivate it. And we're going to talk about those 3 options as well. Essentially, though, creating is writing your own blog posts. Curating is collecting resources from a lot of different places and bringing them together in some sort of summary or roundup. And cultivating is creating incentives for people to generate user-generated content. Maybe guest blog posts, maybe a contest, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. But if you're creating content, what do you write about? Well, earlier I said that there are things you know that your readers don't. You know about industry trends and product innovations and regulations. If you're in an industry where there's a lot of regulatory conversation, go ahead and post information about that. You have to decide, and it varies from company to company. Do you want to take a stand, or do you want to just inform? Again, there's no right or wrong. Just recognize that in controversial issues, you have to decide whether having an opinion is going to help or hurt you. You can write about your products. When are you having new innovations coming out? When are you having new launches? Think about the questions you get asked over and over again. One of the questions that I get asked over and over is, now wait a minute, I have to buy hosting and a domain name. Why do I need both? Can't I host my website just on my computer? And I answered that question so many times, and I came up with some great analogies, and I always talk about that a hosting company is like a trailer park, and your website's like a mobile home that you drive in, and your domain name is like the forwarding address from your post office. And that analogy really helped people understand kind of the relationship of the different pieces. And so I finally wrote it down. And now whenever a client asks me about that, I simply send them a link to that blog post. So it gets found in search, people find it and find it interesting and helpful, and it shortens the amount of time I have to spend explaining it over and over again to customers. So think about the questions you answer on a regular basis. Write blog posts about how to take action. What should people do with your product or service? Talk about case studies. Case studies and testimonials are awesome because it gives you an opportunity to toot your own horn without tooting your own horn. It gives you an opportunity to show people what other customers think about you, how they feel about you. Don't be shy. Write about your company. Remember that most people want to do business with people they like. So help them get to know and like your company. Introduce them to your employees. Write bios of new people. Allow new employees to write their own blog posts talking about what they hope to be doing in their career. Interview longtime employees and celebrate events in your blog. If your company wins an award, don't be shy. Also, use blog posts to take people behind the scenes. Every time we redo our website, we actually take clients behind the scenes by showing them some of the artwork, by showing them some of the tools that we used in blog posts. And if you're hosting events, make sure there's an invite on your website. Another strategy that we use, particularly when we're writing a lot of blog posts for a client, we'll build them around themes. Certainly holidays are nice, and that's the one everybody goes to, but you can also create a theme around an area of expertise or a specific product or a particular target audience. This month, we're going to focus on the needs of companies in the home service industries. And next month, we're going to write for lawyers and doctors and professional services. And the following month, we're going to really focus in on retail clients. By creating themes, again, it helps you organize your planning process and start to collect information for your blog post. This is one of my favorite tricks. I talked to you earlier about telling folks to outline. I ramble. That's my style. You may have noticed it if you've taken more than one of the webinars with me. And so what I do is I sit down with my iPhone, or actually, I often do it in my car. I will simply dictate a blog post. I will pretend that someone has asked me a question, and I just answer the question. And then I can either transcribe what I have said, or I can just listen to it over again as I type. But sometimes just talking about a topic out loud really helps you get an amazing blog post because it's authentic and it's not. What I find when I do that, when I record my blog posts, the language is more natural. It's a more approachable tone. Turn questions into content. I want to give you a couple of examples of how you can do this, taking your frequently asked questions. How do I prevent pipes from bursting? And turn that into a blog post that's 3 ways to protect your pipes. Think about how you would answer that question and then write the blog post. An accountant might be asked, can I deduct mileage from work to home? And his first reaction might be to say, no, you can't deduct that. Well, that tone, that no, you can't deduct that. Yeah, it's a little more in your face, but it's a really effective way to get the attention of your audience and say, I had a client ask me this, and my first reaction was to shout, no, you can't do that. Here's why. And it's engaging, and it's interesting, and it's authentic. How do I pick the right wine? Oh my God, how many times have you been sitting in a restaurant and you're thinking, I don't know what to pick? Well, what if a restaurant or a wine shop wrote a blog post that said, red or white, become a wine expert today. And they gave you 2 or 3 tips to help you make that first choice when you're in a restaurant. Would that blog post have your attention? I'm guessing it would. Okay, This is one of my favorite all-time headlines. Headless body found in topless bar. It's actually from a newspaper article, I think in the 1980s, written in the New York Post. And there was a dead body found in a bar. And the reporter gets his assignment to go out to Long Island and get the story. And all he can think the whole time out there is, oh my God, I wonder if it's a strip club, because then I can write a headline that says, headless body in topless bar. And it was, and he did. And the thing about this headline, it is so striking and it makes you go, what? But after you're done saying, what? You read the article. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the headline. Sometimes I start with the title and I write the article, and sometimes I write the article and then find the perfect headline. Headlines and blog posts can do one of three things. They can inform, they can warn, or they can persuade. And there isn't a right or a wrong. I would recommend that you mix it up, that you find some of your blog posts should be straight information. Some tap into some of the things that could go wrong if people don't use your product, and some might be a little bit more hard sell. Headline styles, think about going negative. Don't read this article. 3 ways to ruin your carpet. Negative headlines catch people and make them go, what? What do you mean I shouldn't read the article? Why is a carpet cleaner talking about ruining carpet? If you can prompt a question in your customer's mind, you've got their attention and they will read on. Blogs and headline styles that ask or answer questions. The ask was a very popular style, writing style for a long, long time. I can't tell you how many brochures I designed with, are you struggling with this? Do you want more of that? Well, here's the problem. If people say no in their head, they don't read on. So a wise person once told me in a sales training class, never ask a question that a customer can say no to. So instead of asking questions, answer them in the headlines. Instead of saying, do you want more sales? Assume that the other person has said, well, I want more sales. So your title and your article is, here's how you can get more sales. Here's how, here's why. Phrases like that that seem to answer the question that's in the person's mind gets their attention. And tease them with a little bit of mystery. That headless body and topless bar falls into this category. You're not quite sure what it's about, but you are really interested. Create a sense of urgency with your headlines. Only 5 of these. Learn this before it's too late. Numbers are weird. People seem to react really well to very small and very large numbers. The small number plays into the limited attention span. I don't have time to read 10 things, but oh, there's only 3. I can read it. On the other hand, a blog post that promises 101 ways to do something, you figure, you know what, I can go in and just scan through that list and there's gonna be something there that I need. And personalize. And this goes back to my comment earlier about segmenting your market. You can write a blog post about retirement strategies for everyone and try to touch on all the different age groups in one article. But then as a reader, if I'm only in one age group, I only care about one paragraph in that whole article. Instead, write an article that talks about retirement strategies for millennials, retirement strategies for boomers, managing your retirement funds after you leave the workplace. Figure out who your audience is and personalize that article and personalize that headline for them. And then the finishing touches. Again, that featured image is really critical, but don't forget the links. That's the third R. Remember, recency, relevancy, and related links. So from each blog post, make sure you link to at least one other place on your website and one outside resource. That gives your blog post more authority. And always, always, always tell me what to do next. Don't ever let someone get to the very bottom of your page and leave. There should always be a link to more on this topic, an invitation to contact you, a video, a podcast, something. But there should always be more. But you don't always have to write the content. You can curate content that is created by others. Where do you find this content? Industry news. Create a Google alert. Sign up for newsletters from your competitors, from industry leaders. Follow them on social media. And then always, when you do a curated post, always credit the source. Make it real clear that you found this recipe on this website or this recipe on that site. Curated content like this, where you're tagging all the places the content came from, can actually help increase links to your blog. Because if another writer sees that you're citing their content, they're more likely to cite yours. Now, when you are curating, you're only pulling a snippet of the content. You are not repeating the entire blog. That's called plagiarism, and that's called stealing content. But using a paragraph from somebody else's blog, giving them credit, linking back to them, that is good online manners. And you have to add your perspective. It's not enough to just list all the different articles. You got to tell me why. Because if you're not adding your perspective, if you're not adding value to the content you're creating, you're no better than a Google search. And maybe you're not as good because there's no way you can put enough content in that article. But if you put together an article and you tell me, why do you like this or this or this post? What should I be looking for when I read that? Now you've added great value. And I think a lot of times we curate from other sources, but if you've been blogging for a while, you've got a lot of content on your own website. And so go back and curate your own content. Find blog posts that you've written in the past and bring them together in one article. And again, follow the same rules. A little snippet of the content and an explanation of why I should read it. And I talked about this a little bit in the content strategy. Don't be afraid to cultivate from your community. Invite people to guest blog. Now, I'm not talking about all the mind-numbing people who fill out a contact form on your website and say, I write good posts. I write on these topics. Please post my blog. No. But if you've got a referral partner, if they have a blog and you have a blog, go ahead and do a blog swap. You write one for them, they write one for you. Reach out to industry professionals and see if you can guest post on their blog. Other ways to acquire content from your community: create surveys and pop-up questions on social media. Collect input from other people. I did one a few years ago where I put a note on Twitter and I asked people who were part of the Twitter chat with me a question. And then I collected their answers into a group post. I credited each of the people who shared their thoughts or ideas in one content post. The beautiful thing with this post is it was linked to all of their websites, and each one of the people in this article shared the post to their community. And suddenly our reach was not just worldwide, but around the world, because one of the people that I cited lived in England. And that really plays into the last thing I want to touch on, which is distribution. You've got to find your audience. It's not enough to write content and hope they find you. Always, always, always remember that your blog is ground zero. From there, you can share the content on newsletters, social media, on Google My Business, and Facebook and Twitter. But this creates an opportunity to reach your audience where they are and bring them back to your website. It is a virtuous cycle. You start with your website. Maybe you do an email newsletter. You push people to social media to engage with you. And from social media, you push them back with other blog posts. And it goes round and round and round. And one final note, use data, make informed decisions. You have so much information at your fingertips. For example, look for clues in what people are reading. What were your most popular posts in the last week, in the last month, quarter, and all time? You can bet I'm coming back to this topic of Twitter dying more than once, given how popular it is. I'm interested in logo size, quickly edit photos. This, I got to tell you, this particular screen grab was from 2017. This blog post, editing photos with Photoshop and the customer review page, those two posts still get visits today. A good blog post is the gift that keeps on giving. So look in your content for popular blog posts and create other links or other articles on the same topic and link to them. And look at your social media, same thing. Look at which content people reacted to most. That will also give you clues about what you should write about. And then start creating. Don't worry that every blog post is not perfect. The beautiful thing about social media is and in online marketing is you can go back and tweak it, and you can add to it, you can edit it, and actually when you do those things, it sends new signals to Google. So start creating today. Blogging software is easy to use. Whether you're using WordPress or Blogger, almost all of them have a pretty easy interface these days. Title, text, go ahead and use bold, add a picture. It's pretty easy. And don't forget the categories which help you connect with keywords, trackbacks or links to other blogs, and then use an SEO tool. I happen to like Yoast SEO to remind you how to construct your title, remind you to write a meta description for every single blog post, and then share it and go on to the next. Okay, now's a great time for questions if you have them.
And while I'm waiting to see, oh, Janie, I'm glad you were able to join. And yes, there will be a recording. And one last thing I just want to make you aware of before we end today. One of the things that I get frustrated about very often is I run through this webinar. I know the content is good, but I also know that it's a lot to try to get your hands around all at once. And that's why we've created these self-paced courses. Oops, there we go. Why we've created these self-paced courses, and we have one specifically on blogging. I'm going to go ahead and put a link to the class here. The course includes the content that we covered today, but instead of doing it all at once, we break it up into a series of smaller videos along with some workbooks and resources that can help you plan your next blog post. And the courses are designed to be small and affordable. This class is $29.99 and you have unlimited access when you register. So I hope that you guys will check that out. And I hope you'll look at the digital toolbox to see what else we have coming up in the next few weeks. Guys, have a great day now. Bye.